Aloha mai kako, you are watching Hawaii Political Reporter.
Aloha and welcome to Hawaii Political Reporter. Tonight we have a special gold edition that we are sure you will find very informational and enjoyable. Tonight's show, the U.S. budget problem, Crony Capitalism, the commercial, geothermal and the environmental impact study, Hawaii state land and power grab, and at the end, naturally, but here's a quick sample.
Venal politicians are my favorite minions. They get more good work done than armies.
To understand Washington's budget dilemma, we simply click on the President's budget for fiscal year 2013. Page 210 provides 12 years of budget data. We will only look at this year, 2012. Washington will spend $3.8 trillion. However, it will only collect $2.5 trillion in taxes, resulting in a deficit of $1.3 trillion, an amount larger than what Congress appropriates to operate the federal government. Now to explain the dilemma. Government spending is broken down in three simple categories: interest, mandatory programs, which is entitlements and government pensions, and the federal government, which is called discretionary programs. It breaks down the government in two pieces: security-related, which includes the military, and non-security, which encompasses any spending that is not related to the nation's security, such as Department of Education, energy, etc. We simply cross out the federal government, and the remaining cost exceeds all tax revenues. The problem is simple. Spending for mandatory programs and interest is greater than the tax revenues collected. Mandatory programs include Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment, and federal pensions. Congress must pay the interest and has promised to pay the pensions and entitlements. So the dilemma they face is that after the checks are processed for mandatory programs and interest, there isn't $1 left to fund the military or any federal employee, department, or office. You now understand their dilemma. To balance the budget, Congress would either have to raise taxes 50% or eliminate the federal government. If they cut entitlements and pensions, our nation will have riots like Greece. And as I chart the debt, it reveals Washington's uncontrollable addiction to borrowing. The budget projects this year over $16 trillion debt and $26 trillion this decade, soaring debt that has the United States on a path identical to Greece. And if you thought Greece was a problem, the United States has 32 times their debt. $16 trillion is 25% of the world's gross domestic product. As Washington is racing toward the cliff, there is no hint of slowing down. And for the first time in our history, the United States has lost its AAA rating on its Treasury debt. Greece provides a preview of what happens when a nation is forced to deal with massive debt. Greece recently was downgraded to the lowest rating on the scale. Investors lost 70% in the recent European bailout, and the bailout of bonds are now rated as junk bonds. The question is not if, but when the United States will collapse from the weight of the soaring debt. And we need to ask, what are we paying these Washington intellects to do? They have no approved budget, they borrow every dollar to operate, and they estimate debt will soar to $26 trillion. Instead of solving the crisis, they raise the debt ceiling.
What we have to do is stop borrowing all this money. You mentioned earlier that one of the problems is that we haven't raised the debt ceiling. That's one of the only good things out there, that ceiling is still there. Unfortunately, they're going to raise it. We're going to go deeper into debt, which means bigger problems. And this is not, the economists are describing this as a soft patch. It's not, it's quicksand. And the economists who think this is a soft patch, these are the same people who in 2007 said the U.S. economy had never been in better shape. They didn't see this crisis coming. Right. They've never understood the problems with the U.S. economy, and they still don't understand them. They think that government stimulus made the problems better. It didn't. It allowed the problems to get worse.
Aloha mai kako, you are watching Hawaii Political Reporter.
It seems apparent that Oahu has plans to take control of our island for its resources, bypassing all local regulations, home rule, and the people.
Just got a big round of applause for Ted's comment. And I wanted to hear what he had to say. Ted, give us the word.
Well, all I commented on was the The presentation process that was given by the lady included these problematic projects and also problematic developers. And what I wanted to find out or question was, would some of these problematic developers be covered by Bill 55, the bill that created the Public Land Development Corporation, a bill that is a true atrocity and an affront to anybody who lives in Hawaii? I hope that I get an answer, or that we get an answer, not I. Bill 55 is a bill that was an idea of the governor, Abercrombie. He created a 9-member commission to try and make this bill, and that was in January of 2011. By May of that year, the bill was completed in its entirety, and it was sent to legislature, and it took 3 days, mind you, to pass. What it does, it creates a board, 3 members chosen by the governor, 1 by the Senate, and 1 by the House. 5 people with no expertise whatsoever in building, environmental concerns, or whatever. They also are allowed to invest in whatever developer they give leeway to build. They have access to 1/4 of the state lands on these islands. Not only the above land lands, but all the submerged lands that are able to be developed. They have no one to answer to. They supersede any county regulations, any regulations that are now on the board for land use. They bypass that all. Everything. The counties have to supply the infrastructure on top of that. They do not pay state taxes. The bill is actually Bill 1155. They call it Bill 55, and then again, like I said, is the bill that developed, or they made the commission or the corporation that is called the Public Land Development Corporation. It needs to be repealed, or we are going to be hurting.
So what you're telling us is it actually circumvents the democratic process?
Yes, totally.
Totally. Okay, so we have absolutely no say. It's strictly up to these
None.
appointees.
None whatsoever.
And we don't even have an opportunity to mitigate? Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Well, there you have it. We're going to put the power in the hands of the government. Thank you, Ted.
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I'm going to be an architect. When I grow up, I want to work hard. I want to take care of animals. I'm going to help sick people. I'm going to build the tallest skyscraper in the world. When I grow up, I want to work for the government and rig the system. I want to work for the IRS, the SEC, the DOE. Really? I'm going to make the rules. Change the rules. I'm going to be a lobbyist. I'm going to Capitol Hill to work on a committee and put whatever my friends want into legislation. I'm going to fight for my piece of the taxpayer pie.
I'm going to play favorites.
When I grow up, I want to be a crony.
A power-hungry crony.
What's a crony? It's like having a best friend who gives you other people's stuff. Yes. We get paid not to work. We take care of our friends. The tax code is so complicated, nobody knows how we get rich.
I want to build a big government program for all my crony friends.
They won't have to play by the rules.
Really?
I want to be a crony. I want to be a crony. Yeah, a crony. We get to spend taxpayer money any way we want.
That's why I want to be a crony.
I want to be a crony too. Why be a taxpayer when I could be a tax spender?
So what this is all about is that the U.S. Department of Energy is here in partnership with the state of Hawaii on this clean energy initiative, the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative. So we are here to develop environmental guidance to help provide information, valuable environmental information to the process collectively going forward to help enable these 2030, the year 2030, 70% clean energy goals.
Hey, Crazy Kim here with KHPR, Hawaii political reporter, and I'm actually here with Billy Kenoi. I thought you made a pretty interesting statement there that the people kind of turned around. Tell us what you said to them.
No, our message was a simple one, that it's not just about expansion of renewable energy, but the goal has got to be cheap, affordable, renewable energy.
Absolutely.
Our cost of energy is way too high. It impacts way too many people in our community. And more importantly, it impacts the most vulnerable in our community.
Right.
And that's in my written statement. And we're basically saying we're not in support of exporting our renewable energy sources.
Absolutely.
That our goal is about taking care of families on Hawaii Island.
Super.
It's a very simple message. I know there's a lot of statements.
This is tough.
This
is a tough crowd.
You know what? You've gotta be willing to step up. That's the price of leadership.
Absolutely.
And make the decisions. But more importantly, it's a good decision. I mean, it's two goals, right? We sit in the middle of the Pacific, 2,500 miles from anywhere else.
We are a bit remote, yes.
So we have to be more self-reliant. We
Right.
have to not depend on fossil fuels being imported, which we're way too dependent on.
Right.
So the goal of more renewable energies is a good goal, but ultimately it has to be cheaper, affordable, renewable energy. The current status quo is unacceptable.
I'm with you.
We cannot continue to escalate electricity or energy prices.
Are there any specific strategies you have to attack this, or is this just the process we're going through?
Well, it's Department of Energy, it's state. I mean, it's educating everyone that
It's complicated.
and everybody's got to do their part. I mean, County of Hawaii as well. I mean, we've got to be self-reliant at home. I mean, County of Hawaii cannot talk about renewable energy. We've got to do it.
Well, for homeowners, we look around and go, oh, well, this is so simple. But the truth is, this is a complicated deal.
Hey, anytime we talk about energy, anytime we talk about the cost of energy, quality of life, there's a few challenges there.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
very
very
welcome.
much.
Take care.
Drilling for geothermal, exploratory geothermal, seems to be a catchword. Well, it's only exploratory and it's not production. I need every one of the viewers to do some time in checking out what is exploratory geothermal drilling. A drilling, for the most part, will encompass drilling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, averaging, I don't know if there's an average, but I would guess to be anywhere from 4,000, 5,000 feet downwards to 9,000, 10,000 feet. How long this exploratory drilling takes place? Weeks, months, before they determine whether it's a positive place or a negative place. I need people to understand that taking away or signing of Act 97 allowed drilling companies to come in with the permission of the property owner to do this. I need you to think very carefully what this means in regards to Hawaii. And this is taking away any home rule element, because the signing of the passage of Act 97 took away all home rule in regards to the county planning commission authority in regards to geothermal permitting. And what takes its place? Basically the state. And in regards to that, because you take away all local control or home rule. When that occurred, the governor heard that I was a little disturbed about it. And he gave me the extreme courtesy of calling me to ask me what my problem was in regards to that. And I will tell you, I told the Governor, I cannot believe that you have done this to the people in the land of Hawaii, to allow these things to happen. And that we can do this anywhere in the state of Hawaii, of ag lands, urban lands, rural lands, without a permit system. I asked him one favor, and I have not heard from him since. And naturally, since this aired, I'm going to say what I can remember, what I told him. I said, Governor, I asked you one favor. There is so many misconceptions about geothermal. And I was one of them initially, because this is something new to most of the people in Hawaii, and we know very little about it. And you believe what people tell you. I asked him that with his extensive background in Congress, he must know a lot of people in California. I asked him that not to listen to me, not to listen to the pro-geothermal people here, not to even listen to the anti-geothermal people here. I asked him to please contact those in California who are responsible for geothermal in regards to monitoring and enforcement of rules and regulations, and to contact them and to ask them, this is what I signed, what do you think? I said, I think you'll be very, very surprised at what you will discover as far as the difference of geothermal of Hawaii versus California or even Iceland. And I'll cover that very briefly here. Iceland and California geothermal is what they call as clean steam or white steam. Hawaii geothermal is referred to as what they call hot rock or magma geothermal resource. The difference, in California, nature creates the energies of geothermal. You have, I'm sure, seen in person or on film or pictures where the geysers in California blows up every so many minutes on a very systematic time. Why is that? Because nature creates the situation where water, underground water, is provided in regards to being heated up and blows up after a certain pressure is reached. In Hawaii, that is not true. In Hawaii, and going back to that, the residue of that geothermal resource is basically water. And so most of it, or not all of it, can be poured right back into the groundwater system with no problem. In Hawaii, you can't do that. The residue of geothermal in Hawaii, because it is hot rock magma, you have a tremendous different element in regards to the residues and after effect of geothermal. And one of them is hydrogen sulfide.
Wow. Okay, that's a tremendous difference. Okay,
it is a tremendous difference, and it is one of the most misunderstood, miscommunication, misinformation that is out there. And truthfully, I cannot even understand this because we are talking about the safety of people. We are talking about safety and an impact on the environment. I mean, forget whether you're for or against geothermal. Mm-hmm. There should be one common denominator. I don't care what it is. It is of government responsibility to do things right for the protection of the people.
Yes, sir.
For protection of the land.
Harry, I think also you hit something else that is tremendous. I mean, again, like you said, whether you're for it or against it, home rule, because, I mean, people are going to be affected out there. I mean, maybe it is going to be something they could do right, but, I mean, gee whiz, shouldn't we at least carefully listen before? This is gigantic, and I've heard people say that, this is a lava zone 1, okay, that they're going to be trying to do this in. And isn't that in itself, I mean, that's got to tell you there's extreme danger there, especially on an industrial scale with high power and everything else going on, wouldn't you imagine?
I live in Puna, and I'm very close to the current PGV power plant, and there's been many more power plants. I found out last month that they've leased land about a quarter mile from my house, and they're planning to build a geothermal plant there. I'm very concerned about this. These plants are highly toxic, they're extremely dangerous, and so far nothing has been done about this, and they've just been planning on building more. So we're here to speak out about that. Some of the major problems with this geothermal plant is hydrogen sulfide gas, which is released into the air. It's a lethal poison, highly, highly toxic. It can be, there's been times in the past where it's been released uncontrollably, called a blowout. People had to be evacuated. There's been 18 civil defense emergencies in the last 20 years, and they're planning on expanding this by 20 times. It doesn't make any sense. A single lightning strike caused one major blowout of the Puna power plant. What will happen when we have 20 more of these plants and we have a single earthquake? There's been no plans to prepare for an earthquake. There's all kinds of underground pipes that could be ruptured, causing major blowouts, major venting, uncontrolled explosions from the pentane gas on site. It could cause a massive explosion, causing a wild well that could not be capped. Uncontrolled, unimaginable devastation could be done in a single earthquake with this many power plants in Puna. Unimaginable, irreversible damage, not to mention loss of life.
And we're in a lava zone 1 here, right?
We're in a lava zone 1. It's one of the most geologically unstable areas in the world. How you can even think of drilling 20 more wells, 30 more wells in an unstable area. There's been geological studies that show that drilling can cause earthquakes.
So it's science.
So it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy that we have an earthquake. It could cause a major explosion, cause uncontrollable venting that could have actually been caused by the drilling itself. It's a serious issue. Well, the East Rift Zone is obviously an active volcano. I don't know the exact percentages of a lava flow in the next 100 years, but I've heard they're very high. And it's very likely that a geothermal plant could be covered by lava. And if this is something that we're relying on for our energy, for Oahu, for Big Island, and we're not going to have energy after that. And that could take a very long time to rebuild. That would be a 100% loss on the investment. The geothermal plant will be underground. How are you going to replace another 50% of the grid when it's completely gone? I have no idea. Not to mention all the devastation that could be caused by a geothermal plant exploding and uncontrollably venting due to a natural disaster.
So I want to ask you a question. Let's back up. You said there was a bubble up, and I'm kind of a dumb guy. What the heck is a bubble up?
Well, I'm not an expert on it, but according to what I read, they are injecting all this toxic water into the ground. Toxic chemicals are being injected onto the ground to store them. And it was assumed that this would be totally fine, that they would stay underground, they wouldn't bubble up to the surface, they wouldn't contaminate groundwater. But it's turning out that that wasn't true, and that these toxic chemicals are actually bubbling up literally from the ground and seeping into groundwater and literally coming up to the surface.
Is there a place that the average person could look online, a site, or what would you do? Like go to Wikipedia? Do we go where?
The Punapono website has a lot of links. There's an excellent study done by Goddard and Goddard in the 1990s that spells out all the health risks. It was an actual scientific study done. That's a very good source of information. The Punapono website as well has a lot of other links.
How do we get to the Punapono website?
I believe it's www.punapono.com. If not, you just type Punapono into a search engine and you'll find it.
If it is going to be through geothermal, it needs to be done in the most Pono right way possible. It should not be located near any residences or business. It should be far out, a nice big buffer. I think people are talking about 10-mile radius right now. I think that makes sense. And if we're going to have that, we should also see a reduction in our rates.
There is an article in the newspapers by Helco saying that we will save a couple of cents with geothermal in there. A couple of cents. And in 20 years we'll save $1.50. Now what do you call that? I call that us being exploited, and enough is enough. Thank you.
And they're hearing a lot from the community, I think, about, particularly here in the Big Island, they're hearing a lot of our concerns about how we want to maximize solar power and other safe renewable powers. They're getting an earful about geothermal, which has caused a lot of problems here in Hawaii. And I was telling them of how I hope they'll analyze things like comparing the cost of a proposed cable to some of the alternatives, such as distributed power on each island, such as solar power and wind power that are close to the source, and that each island really should be energy self-sufficient within itself rather than trying to add the cost of a very expensive cable to our utility bill.
So let's see, that cable was, I heard 18 million or something just for the wire?
It's billions. It's between 10 and 20 billion. That's the estimate so far. The real answer is nobody knows, because there's never been a cable like this anywhere in the world. In fact, a much, much smaller cable was just abandoned in Massachusetts because they decided it wasn't economically feasible.
Well, also in Las Vegas, I saw they moved away several years ago from Hoover Dam, and they away from the centralized power grid, and they started building satellite power stations. Can you tell us why that happened?
I can't talk about that particular project, but the future of energy planning is in distributed, decentralized power sources close to demand. Because when you centralize something and then transmit it a long way, you have tremendous energy losses in transmission, and it's just a very inefficient, and it's an old-fashioned model.
So transmission loss is our big, big enemy. So why should we send power from here to Oahu when Oahu can produce power there and save on, 2/3, I think, on transmission loss from here to Hawaii?
It could well be that much. Well, that's my point. Oahu should be energy self-sufficient, just like the other islands, and we shouldn't be sacrificing any aspect of our outer islands where we value our self-sufficiency and our environment for the sake of Oahu's failure to address its own energy needs.
Super. Is there anything else you'd like to address this evening?
Well, as part of the bigger energy picture, I really hope that we can learn to become food self-sufficient on each island too, because that's part of our energy costs. We spend a huge amount of energy shipping food in, and whereas we really ought to be growing it here and processing and producing food here. That would help with our self-sufficiency in terms of energy, as well as perhaps the most crucial security issue, which is local.
I got another man off the street getting involved. Let's hear. Who are you and why are you here, sir?
My name is Polikapu Dedman. I'm with the Pele Defense Fund.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm here to give my input. I know it's a scoping, and they got a draft EIS, and then the final, but the Hawaiian concerns really don't get addressed, and it's got a lot to do with our religious and spiritual beliefs, and that's been ignored for years. And geothermal has been the biggest one that ignores our religious beliefs by sacrilegiously doing geo against our beliefs. That's something sacred. And of course, the impacts that we've had for a couple hundred years. I mean, we've lost more than 400 endangered species that'll never ever come back. So I'm just saying, when you lose part of the environment, then we lose part of our traditional practice, because lots of those things are part of practice.
Right.
And when we lose them, we lose practice.
Okay, so you have to understand that I'm this crazy guy from the mainland who came here because I just love it, and I'm doing stuff kind of on the same line. But is there anything that you could say to somebody like me? Because I have no clue about the traditions.
Well, what you could understand is how the American Indians look at their environment. And lots of the environment for indigenous people is part of spirituality. So lots of things in Hawaiians' environment are part of their spiritual beliefs, but we have a history of Christianity and what it's done. But through a track record in history, we should realize that Native Hawaiians don't have an extra Hawaii, and they don't have extra places to go to or extra people as the rest of the races do. They always got a continent, someplace to go back to where they're originally from, but we don't. So it's important that we start looking out for who we are. We're just like an endangered species.
Hey there, Crazy Kim again, and I want you to know we got it going on. I found Mr. Grimm out there, and he is all for this stuff. Tell us how it's going to benefit you.
Oh, in so many ways.
Really?
This is good for business.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Bhopal, Fukushima, Hawaii, my favorite places thanks to venal politicians.
Excellent. Wow, I never knew that this could be a good thing, but now Grimm's filling us in.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah, not only do people get crumbs from the table initially with the little drips and drabs of money that come into the local economy, but think about all the jobs that are created.
Wow, you're right. A lot of jobs, because
Absolutely.
the machines are doing the work, right?
Yeah. No, people doing the work. I mean, embalming, crematorium.
Oh, I didn't realize. You're absolutely right.
It's good for real estate, too. As cemeteries expand.
It's the Land Development Program by Grimm. Okay, thanks, Grimm. We appreciate it. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I think people sort of lose sight of the real prize here. It's not just Hawaii's current and future generations, the children. It's not that. That's just humans. I mean, they're like leaves on a tree. They just keep coming back over and over again until you kill the whole branch. And branch by branch, species by species, I'm going to eventually kill that whole tree.
So you're kind of like Roundup.
Oh, boy. But for humpback whales, for endangered species of Hawaiian fauna and flora, one branch by branch after another, we're going to get that tree. That's the real goal.
I never understood just how important it was to be thinking in another complete light.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Venal politicians are my favorite minions. They get more good work done than armies.
Well, fantastic. Hey, guys, I know that this is going to be great for you. Hawaii Political Reporter, tune in for us, and you might get to see Grimm.
We appreciate the Mayor and Harry Kim providing their perspective on the geothermal and environmental issues. We did not filter or tilt the viewpoints on this issue. We did offer Mike from Puna Geothermal Ventures an interview. He declined.
In 1913, the money power of the country was taken away from the people, but it was given up in the Federal Reserve Act. The Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express.
You try a hide and destroy a freedom, man. You sick agenda. We know you anti-American. You come forward American Constitution. 1913, corrupt in the system. Devalue dollar, hyperinflation. The Federal Reserve controlled by Lucifer.